UK at 2:15. And we will also check in with Ali Ventura, our movie reviewer, in a moment. A New Zealand Live Classic about 2:30 from Bailey Wiley. Nadia Lim has recipe for slow-cooked smoky beans after 3. Linda Hallinan is our gardening expert, and actually she's talking about spring bulbs today. Daffodils, tulips, anemones. Are anemones flowers? Hyacinths, freesias, ranunculus. Haven't heard of ranunculus either. Linda will tell us all about them at about 3:20 today. We'll introduce you to an up-and-coming New Zealand musician and then Critter of the Week. Today we're looking at deep sea stony coral. Apologies for the rustling in the background. My wife is making my daughter's bed. Let's go to the movies now, and Ali Ventura joins us. Hello there.
Hello, how you doing?
Good, thank you. Ali is our movie reviewer, among other things. And what have you seen this week, Ali?
I have seen, well, it's been very exciting because cinemas are opening up. I think that it's mainly independent cinemas, but the point is they've been given a few screeners, which is really nice because I've gotten through a lot of stuff on Netflix and Lightbox.
How much of what you love about the movies, Ellie, is actually going along and sitting there and getting whatever you're going to get and the lights going down? How much of that is you're sort of a millennial, so, you watch things on laptops, but do you like that traditional movie experience?
Yeah, I really do. Obviously, movie popcorn is amazing. Like we had a jar in my flat. We had a jar of things where we would write down what we wanted to do once the lockdown was over, and we put them all in a jar. And there's still some in there because we haven't quite been able to do them. And one of them is go to the movies and get popcorn. But I also think that these movies that I watched today, particularly this first one called The Assistant, I would have loved to see it in cinema. So if you can go to the cinema and watch this, I think it'll be much better. It's a really atmospheric, tension-building movie, and I really don't think I've experienced it at home as I should have. It made it, not really, it wasn't quite as punchy, I think, sitting in my living room watching it.
Okay. And we'll get straight into it because I'll apologise in advance if we have to jump out of this movie review and go to Todd Muller. But
no need to
apologise. The Assistant.
So The Assistant is, I guess it's more of a nuanced take of the Me Too movement. I reviewed Bombshell a few weeks back or a few months back, and I think I told you that I felt it was lacking something. I think The Assistant has that something, which is it's not so overt. The thing with sexual harassment or power plays at work is that it's an undercurrent and it's an unspoken thing, and it's a lot of the time it's not an overt thing and
not something you can point your finger at, but that's harder to communicate on film.
Yeah, it is much harder to communicate, and this is one of those movies that is a real critical darling, and I understand why, because it's a beautifully made movie, and the atmosphere, like I said, is incredible, but it doesn't quite have that shine and that satisfaction of a blockbuster. You don't have like a resolution at the end, particularly. Yeah. There's not a huge amount of narrative, really. It kind of meanders along. So if you're wanting sort of a hard-hitting, let's get the bad guys in this movie, you're not going to get that. But you do get a real slow and lovely take of what it's like to be someone working in this kind of environment. So this woman, Jane, is at a film production company. She sort of books the hotels, and she's been there 5 weeks, and she's just scanning copies, and she has to do things like answer to the boss, who they just call he or him, answer to his wife, who's asking where he is, and obviously she doesn't have an answer for him. And this boss evidently kind of hires really young women, and he flies them in from, Boise, Idaho, to go for these films, and he puts them up in these really expensive hotels and then happens to be in those hotels when they're there. So, it's inferred what is happening, but the most incredible scene is when she takes this to the HR people to try and explain what's going on, and it is the most infuriating scene because it is this real clear gaslighting kind of thing where you're trying to explain something that is kind of unexplainable. You know it's wrong, but you can't put words to it.
Yeah.
And he just, it reminds me of those discussions we had during the Me Too movement where people would say, well, what actually happened? What actually is the problem?
So
I
many of the
think that
complaints
this
seem
is
to die at the altar of the HR department, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And this HR guy is infuriating. I mean, he is completely, really lovely and affable when she comes in, and then he turns on a dime and just reminds her place in this world. So
Yeah.
I thought it was a really true portrayal of this sort of scenario, which means it's, there's a lot of, it's almost like a thriller. There's a lot of attention in it. But when it ended, I was a little bit like, oh, okay, is that it? But again, I think that may have been because I was sitting at home on the couch and, you kind of don't get the resolution like you would at a cinema with the lights going down and having that sort of powerful kind of end to it. But yeah, really lovely film and incredibly acted. So, yeah.
You haven't mentioned the actors. Is there anyone famous in it?
No, not really. No, there is. There is people that you would know. Julia Garner, who is in Ozark. I don't watch Ozark, but she is in Ozark.
Oh, she's great. Yeah,
she's
she was
great,
in The Americans too.
fantastic.
She's just got one of those
and
faces,
she's fantastic in this. Yeah, and she's also, she kind of leads the film. Like, there are other people in it, but you don't see much of them. The HR guy is Matthew McFadden, who is also sort of quite well known, but yeah, it's more of an independent film, I would say. It'd be low key. I think it was shot in about 12 days or something. But yeah, really powerful for all of that.
Matthew McFadden from Succession. Have you watched Succession?
No, you keep telling me to watch Succession though, because apparently it's amazing.
Yeah, he's Tom in Succession, and he would be absolutely perfect in that HR role that you describe. Amazing.
Is he horrible in Succession as well?
Yeah, he's just sort of quite unctuous and can be
smarmy.
really has this kind of like the cross between beautifully mannered and.
Please. Kia ora tātou. In the past few months, our country has made many sacrifices. You have made many sacrifices. You have put a lot on the line to get us through this crisis. And now we must begin taking another step forward together with confidence. The confidence to rebuild our country, to rebuild our economy, and to restore the livelihoods of New Zealanders. Only a national government can provide the leadership to do that. That is why we must win the next election. Nikki and I and our team understand that the task for the next government is immense. We are honoured by the opportunity to lead this great party, and we take it very seriously. I would like to thank and acknowledge Simon Bridges and Paula Bennett. Simon has worked hard as leader and given the job his all, and the caucus is grateful for his service. Both he and Paula have served the party and our country well. I'd like to personally thank my wife, Michelle, and our 3 lovely children for their support on this journey. Kids, Dad will be home soon. I want to pause here and acknowledge New Zealand's tremendous response to the health crisis ravaging the world. We should all be proud of what we have achieved together. But regardless of these efforts, COVID-19 has hurt us. My absolute focus as the National Party leader will be New Zealand's economic recovery. We will save jobs, we will get the economy growing again, and we will do so by leveraging our country's great strengths, our people, our communities, our great natural resources, our values of hard work, tenacity, innovation and aspiration. I know the size of the task is enormous and I will bring my all to it. Yes, I have run businesses. I can read a balance sheet and a P&L, and I know a good one from a bad one. And I will bring those skills to the Prime Ministership. But that is not what drives me. What drives me is community. The people who help their elderly neighbours with the lawns on the weekend, the dad who does the food stall at the annual school fair, the mum who coaches a local touch rugby team. This election will be about the economy, but not the economy the bureaucracy talks about. It'll be the economy you live in, the economy in your community, your job, your Main Street, your tourism business, your marae, your local rugby league club, your local butcher, your netball courts, your farms, your shops and your families. And this is the economy national MPs are grounded in, and the one that matters the most to New Zealand. For too long, this economy, your economy, and your life has been invisible to decision makers in Wellington, and this must change. And under my national government, it will change. The economy that I believe in is the one you live in. It's the economy of your community. And if we can rebuild that, we can rebuild our country. Now, this is what you can expect from my leadership. First and foremost, I'm about what's best for you and your family, not what's wrong with the government. I'm not interested in opposition for opposition's sake. We're all tired of that kind of politics. I'm about ideas that get results. I'm proud of working across Parliament on the Zero Carbon Act, and wherever I have the opportunity, work with other parties for our country's good, I will do so. Will I criticise the government? Absolutely. But ultimately, values and ideas are what ground me. Like the idea you can shape your own future and are free to do so. I believe in enterprise, reward for hard work, personal responsibility, and in the power of strong families and communities. Fundamentally, I don't believe that for each and every one of us to do better, someone else has to be worse off. Enterprise, hard work, responsibility, they're Nationals' values. They're the country's values. I don't believe the right values and management skills are guiding this country at this time, as it confronts the greatest challenge since the end of the Second World War. I will lead a party that rises to a great challenge facing in front of us as a nation. Labor has failed against every measure it has set itself for in government: Kiwi Build, light rail, child poverty, prison numbers. If we continue on this track of talking a big game but failing to deliver, we simply won't recognise the New Zealand we're a part of in a few years' time. Because New Zealanders know, whether or not they support National, they can have confidence that National will meet the challenges our country faces. New Zealand, it is time for your sacrifice to be repaid and for your community to be rebuilt. And today, that work has begun. Thank you. Tova. It's a secret ballot. We had a fantastic caucus, very respectful, and we have made the decision, I put a line on it, and now our entire focus, this team of talented people, the wider 55 National Party caucus has one focus, and that is ensuring that we put an economic plan to the country that people respect and enjoy. So the caucus votes, we have no idea what the numbers are. We never do. It's not part of our tradition.
One of the main criticisms of you is that you're not well known. How are you going to rectify that between now and the election, and will people like what they find?
Well, I'm really hopeful that I'll be on the news tonight, so that might start it. Look, you've got to be your authentic self. You've got to talk to the ambitions that we have as a party for this country, and as you do that, I believe with authenticity, people will see me, connect with me and relate to me, but ultimately you'll be the test of that. Sorry, Tova. Let Tova finish and then we'll go. This was a caucus conversation. This is the strength of the National Party. I thought actually Paula Bennett put it so well today when she said that we are a family, and in families we have at times siblings scrap a bit. Certainly my wife and I, we've got 2 red-headed daughters and a son. Alas for him, he looks like me. But we do have, we always have moments, every party does, where you have a bit of, internal debate. We've had that, we've resolved it. The feeling in that caucus was incredibly unified and focused on the task at hand. We've had the conversation as a caucus and we've landed, and like I say, the feeling in that caucus room was incredibly positive. Jess, sorry. Sorry, Jess, and then you. Oh, sorry, Jane. My apologies. We were incredibly upbeat about the opportunity that sits in front of us. Our fundamental view is that this country has in front of it an economic crisis, the scale of it that we have never seen in our lifetime. And our party, with its values vested in communities and community economies and small businesses and effort and enterprise, have a very clear view that the plans that we're collectively putting together will be able to best this government, who are a government of high promise, low delivery, and do not have a coherence around how to get out of the recovery. No, I talk about my own style. I am somebody who has had a career over agribusiness and recently in politics, where I naturally look for the opportunities to progress agendas that I think are useful. Now, with respect to the climate change issue, I thought that what was being proposed in terms of an overarching framework made sense. And I worked with James Shaw to do it. I had elements of it where I thought they were completely on the wrong side of history. The issue is that if I see the opportunity to participate for the better of the wider country, I will.
Why do you think Labour...
Cheers, sir. Well, there's a space constraint here, to be fair, and the message that I wanted to portray and reflect from the incredible meeting that we had earlier this afternoon was we are a caucus of remarkable talent. And I've said before in the House that the problem with this government is they've got 2 or 3 strong performers and 17 empty seats in Cabinet. What we have as a national party is a talent, a lived experience in the community and the economy in communities, small business, larger business, and this team will pull together a set of policies that New Zealand will relate to and support in September. Because when we put our hand up to be National Party MPs, we did it on behalf of our communities. And those communities want our values of hard work, enterprise, entrepreneurship, the revival of 500,000 small business to be at the top of a government's priority, and only we can do that.
Why do you think Labour is going to lose such a significant amount of popularity between now and the election?
My view is that the issues with respect to popularity are somewhat related to the events of the last 2 months. And what I think you will have seen in terms of polls over the years is that people are very focused on the issues of the day and how the government is dealing with them. I am the first to admit that and acknowledge that the government's handling of COVID-19 was overall impressive. Hang on. And I think that most New Zealanders would feel the same. But to judge a government on your ability to manage a crisis in 8 weeks in a health context against the threshold of do you have the capacity sitting around a cabinet to design an economic recovery when all your performance measures in the previous 2.5 years have been a failure, I think that doesn't work. I think the country knows it doesn't work, and I expect to see that returning. Claire. I will keep Paul Goldsmith in finance. I'll make that clear. I will, to you, Claire. And otherwise, he's just given us a relief there, has he? No, look, the core thing here is it's been 3 hours since the caucus, not even that, since the caucus meeting. Clearly, the team needs to spend some time over the next few days reflecting, and part of that reflection is, what change, if any, is needed in terms of the people that we have promoting our vision for the future. Audrey. Can I have some water, please? Look, the decision from caucus still stands. We had a caucus meeting 2 hours ago with respect to leadership. Look, if that changes in the future, you'll be the first to know, but at the moment, that's our caucus position. Sorry. Excuse me. No, no. Hang on, Tova, I'll get back to that. Sorry. Look, these are part of the conversations that sit in front of us. Paul has had a remarkable contribution to the National Party. She no doubt will be reflecting of, what she would like to do in terms of future contribution. I'll have those conversations with her in the foreseeable future. No, the only indication that I have from MPs is that we have now landed on a leadership team for the 2020s and beyond, that we have an opportunity to win this election if we pull the talent that sits here and beyond together with a coherent and comprehensive plan for New Zealand, and that's our focus. Tova. Who is Todd Muller? Well, actually, I should probably turn it to my wife. She'd give a better answer than I would. But look, I'm a dad. I've got 3 kids. I'm a Bay of Plenty boy. I'm a Te Puna boy. I come from the kiwifruit rural heartland of New Zealand. My first school, I was the only Pākehā boy in a Māori convent. I come from the New Zealand communities that, basically define this country. And I'm very, very proud to represent my people. And I'm very, very honoured to be given this opportunity to lead such a tremendous team. Yes. Yes. Look, my perspective when it comes to social issues are informed by my Catholic faith. I've been a Catholic since I was, born, really, and fairly mixed, to be fair, in terms of our performance against the rules over the years, but it's something that is intrinsic to who I am, and that very much informed my perspective. But, when we have this social and conscience issues, I think our party manages it incredibly well. We give people the freedom to be able to express their view. People are totally allowed to hold their views and and acknowledge because of it. My good friend and deputy Nikki is very much on the other side of these issues, and I think it talks to National Party's broad church and our capacity to be comfortable in our own skin and not be challenged in any way by other people who have a different view. Look, it's like I say, this issue has not been put in front of the caucus to even consider. Our issue this morning was who were going to lead the National Party into the election. I was asked a straight question. I'm giving you a straight answer. It's quite possible, maybe, that in the future we could refresh that. I don't know. The caucus position is very clear. It has been clear since January. Let's see if it changes in the future.
You're the leader now. What's your view on it?
Well, as I say, it's a caucus matter. We will get. Yes, I appreciate I'm the leader. Yeah, I appreciate I'm the leader. But we have been here for 2 hours. In my opinion, lots of things change post-COVID, right? Well, I think the important thing is that as we look at our policy response to COVID, be it economic, be it social, be it other positions that the party have held, I think we need to reflect on all of those through the lens of post-COVID, and I'm signalling that should that change in the future, we would signal. Richard. Oh, great.
One of National's weak spots has been urban women, particularly urban young women. What do you think you can do to turn that around?
Well, I think the first thing is that I think sometimes people try and characterise people voting in a particular way. The strong message that I've had from people who are in their 20s, 30s and 40s is that they are very worried about the fact that they're possibly going to have to work longer, work harder and potentially pay more taxes. And I think my ability, in part, yes, being an urban Liberal, but also through all of the different public meetings that I've had over my 12-year career as a parliamentarian, to reach them and to provide an alternative vision around how we're going to ensure that it's not the case that people are working longer, harder and paying taxes for the rest of their life. He is probably the most decent person I know. He's got huge integrity and authenticity, and I believe that part of his strength is actually that he manages to bring together he manages to bring together a diverse range of views. So I have confidence that he can unite both the Conservative people in our caucus, but also those people who are Liberals. And he's got an extraordinary ability to bring people together, and people like him.
Well, I think what happens is that people reflect, as they will do in the last 2 or 3, 4 weeks before an election, which party has the best policies for them, their family, their community, their job, the opportunity to give them hope. We're in a time of crisis that is astounding. And I have a sense that the scale of it has still not yet truly descended and distilled in the New Zealand national psyche. As it does, people will ask the very fair and appropriate questions of their leaders and the political parties. Who best understands me? Who best understands my community? Who best can articulate a vision in terms of where New Zealand must go into the future? And I have every confidence that when I articulate that vision, New Zealand will listen to it, hear it, reflect on their own experience, and decide strongly that the National Party recipe for the future is the right one. Henry. Yes. Yes. No, I think the clear signals that we've made, particularly recently in terms of the response to COVID, absolutely stay there. I mean, the broader settings are part of the work that I know Paul and the wider team have been working particularly hard on in terms of how now do we frame up an economic response, an economic recovery response that has community, jobs, families at its centre. And that's what sits in front of us, and be assured we will bring the best of our collective thinking to that task and then articulate it in a way that New Zealanders hear and resonate. Thomas. Well, the first few hours have been pretty full on. But look, I've got obviously a very good team around me. We need to have time. Somebody else stood in this lectern a couple of years ago and said, 6 weeks out from an election, give us a few days. Let our senior team reflect on what, if anything, we need to polish or check and adjust. That's, of course, the immediate priority. And then there's a conversation that I need to do with the people of New Zealand so they can see me, understand what motivates me, understands the work we're doing to frame up a vision that they feel comfortable with. And that workload, not only of me, but Nikki, the whole team, will be enormous, and we will bring our best game for it. Sorry? Oh, look, I think I'm our number 2. So let me get through this for a start, but through the rest of the day, and as I've mentioned, the next few days will be a priority time for us to reflect on. Look, we haven't considered any of those sorts of options. I understand it's a particular point you'd like to test me on, but I've been leader for 2 hours. I've signalled that in the post-COVID context, we as a party, not only the senior team, but the wider caucus needs to reflect on what, if any, changes we make. And I'm just simply saying that look, I can just simply repeat the same point. Caucus position is very clear. We've just had an election for leader. That was what the focus was. And if that changes in the future, you'll be the first to know.
Mr. Peters is back on the table. That's the answer.
What's that? The lockdown period? No, I spent it with my wife and kids, actually. I was making calls on behalf of the people of Papamoa whose businesses were falling over, for people of Papamoa who needed to get back from the overseas countries they were locked down in, and in particular working hard for our farmers and the agriculture sector, who were given the great privilege of being able to operate, but had to deal with the very clunky interface with MPI. I was very busy, and that was my focus. Look, I think as a caucus, you always reflect on where we need to position ourselves, and that's what we have done over the last couple of days, and of course reached a considered view today, and now we put the line behind it with our total focus on delivering for New Zealand.
Paul Dalton, you pledged loyalty to Simon Bridges. Where is your loyalty to Simon Bridges now, standing right behind Todd Miller?
Look, I need to say that I have absolute 100% support for the leader of the National Party, Todd Muller, and we're going to be doing our very best over the next couple of months to explain to New Zealanders the economic situation and our plan to get out of it.
And what I just add to that is the culture in the National Party is that if you, as we've gone through a period of internal reflection in terms of where we need to position ourselves in terms of leadership, that's what we've done. We have a very respectful process, and we've done that today. We put a line under it, and now our focus, as it always is because the reason we put our hands up in politics in the first place was representing our communities and ensuring that they have a choice in front of them that will look after them, their families and their jobs. No, not at all. I think, as I mentioned before, we had a period of time, over a couple of 3 days that the caucus decided that on balance we needed to have a conversation as a team and as a group, a very large team, 55, and make a decision around what our leadership mix should look like as we move into the 2020s. We've done that, and we walk out of there united, focused, because that's the National Party way. Jess. Not that I can recall, no. If you've got a follow-up question, go for it. Yeah, no.
I've made it very clear, I absolutely am ruling anything out, and I'm very happy to support the leader and deputy leader of the National Party, and Todd and Nikki. I think they've got a great team behind them, and we're all going to be working together. Well, of course, all our ballots are secret, but I think I'm a very happy person to support the leader and the deputy leader and the whole team of the National Party.
What was the trigger point for you when you decided that you would be running against Simon Bridges? Was it a specific moment, or was it after a period of time?
As I said, we have been reflecting as a caucus over the last few days. I made a personal decision in consultation with my wife and family that I would offer an alternative choice to the National Party caucus, and that's what we did today. Sorry? I made that decision on Wednesday, I think it was, from memory. I think that as a person, she's, very impressive, approachable, down to earth. I've met her a couple of times informally, and of course I met her in the process of negotiating for the zero carbon bill. I think she's a tremendous communicator. But the problem with the Prime Minister and this government is that when you look behind them, it falls away very quickly. You have 2 or 3 people who I think are heavy lifters in that cabinet, and as I've mentioned before, there are 17 empty chairs. The issue that, and this I believe will be a core part of the choice that sits in front of New Zealand in the next 100 days, is who actually has the best plan and team to deliver on that plan. And I believe on every measure of accountability they have set for themselves, they have failed, and we will point out both their deficiencies and what we will do and promise and be able to deliver an alternative. As I said, It's a general approach that we're doing, which I think is totally appropriate. Every single business, every single family, every community group are having to go through the same thing. We have just been hit with the most extraordinary event that we have managed to get through successfully from a health perspective, but it has shattered our economies, it has shattered our communities, and we have to rebuild. Everybody... For me as a leader, not at all. But that doesn't mean that there won't be change, because I think it's irresponsible for people in a post-COVID world to not have the capacity to relook and recheck and make sure that it's exactly what we need for the 2020s. What's that? He's a very talented politician. I've known him for a long time. I think we should just respect the fact that he no doubt will spend a little bit of time reflecting on what's next for him. I am very, very happy if he wants to keep contributing to the National Party at the senior level, and I'd welcome that. Pardon? Oh, look, that's a conversation for another day. No, not at all. No. The question was, is there any historic policies that we've taken a fixed position on up until 2 months ago that I would rule in or out? Of course there's not. My point absolutely categorically is that you can't have an event like we've experienced as a country and not have the capacity to re-look at what you think your priorities are, whether that needs to change, and whether there is anything you need to reframe up in a way that is better placed to provide for our number one priority, which is the recovery of this country, the defence and rebuilding of jobs and communities, and ensuring that through that we have strong families. Look, I have every confidence that the National Party has the capacity to be able to develop the right policies for our time, for the 2020s, and take a remarkably robust fight to the government. Claire. Look, these are things we have to work through over the next few days. Couple more. Yeah, there's not been 48 hours like it for me, personally. It's been pretty full on. But I'm really energised about the opportunity. I love this party. I joined in 1988. I was a young national. I set up the first Young Nats at Waikato University. I probably shouldn't say it, but I'll say it anyway. Our first guest to Waikato University was somebody who was the MP for Tauranga, and he turned up with a wine box. I don't know if you know who that guy is. So, you know, my connection in the party goes back a long way. I am very, very passionate about it, and I'm hugely motivated and privileged with the opportunity to lead it and to be part of a remarkable team that will front, I think, a very competitive alternative vision for this country to consider. Last choice. No, these are part of our talented caucus, right? We have 55. I just want to make it very clear that the reason that I brought them here today was to make it a very clear statement that the National Party is a party. We have the largest members. We have a huge network of support. We are grounded in community and businesses. And the people who are buttressing me, sitting around me here today, come from that tradition. And reflect the strength of capability and perspective in the party, and I think that is a defining choice and difference between this party and the Labour Party. Richard, last question.
Jim Bolger said that you're like him. How and what qualities does he carry on?
Well, there we go. I wasn't expecting that one. But look, a love of the outdoors. I certainly share that with him. And occasionally, certainly in the past, a love of a single malt whisky. Very good. Thank you very much.